Thank you all. It's kind of with, I'm a physician, and it's kind of with grief that I come to this because there's so much misinformation put out. But let me first say that we have a lot of common ground here, a lot of common ground. First, let me just say what's actually been accomplished or things that I personally have been involved with. I've led and has been signed into law the John Lewis National Institute on Minority Health and Health Disparities Research Endowment Vitalization Act and Maternal Health Quality Improvement Act, two things designed to address disparity. Working on legislation called the Connected Mom, allowing a woman on Medicaid to be at home and have her vital signs measured remotely as opposed to perhaps taking public transportation to and from the physician. We've worked significantly on what to do about addiction services, knowing that many women who die within a year after a pregnancy die of addiction. We just passed a major suicide bill, a mental health bill, which again, since many women who die post-pregnancy die of suicide. But there's more to do. And I emphasize that because there's common ground. And the common ground gets kind of lost in the midst of a cloud of misinformation. Now, again, I want to speak as a physician because I found that when patients came to me in a panic, the first thing I had to do was kind of dispel their fears that were not the case and to try and instill facts where there was instead this kind of, oh my gosh. So first, I think Dr. Marshall did a wonderful job of pointing out that he, as a pro-life physician, takes care of patients with ectopic pregnancies, period, end of story. So when we hear dialogue that somehow a woman with an ectopic pregnancy will not get her care, it's just not true. Can we dispel that? And when folks say, oh, those states that have the most restrictive abortion have the highest maternal mortality, no one speaks of Washington, D.C., which has the highest maternal mortality and has absolutely no limit upon abortion access, up to the point of parturition. The baby can be coming through the birth canal here in Washington, D.C. and can be aborted. 5 minutes, it would be a child in someone's arms. And instead, 5 minutes early, it's dismembered, its skull crushed, and they have the highest maternal mortality in the nation. And my gosh, if there's anything to fear, Ms. Swindle, in my home state, I happen to visit one of the crisis pregnancy centers. It is amazing the good work they do. And people come there voluntarily. They can leave at any time. They elect to stay, and when I went there, they had a whole closet full of clothing and formula. And I said, well, I thought you were prenatal. And they said, no, we continue to care for the family and the child after the child is born. And we have all these that are here for that family. Now there's federal legislation being introduced that would shut down crisis pregnancy centers, that would say, Ms. Swindle, no matter what your good work, Washington, D.C. is going to shut you down? I will also say, my gosh, there's all this kind of implication that Washington, D.C. is bearing down on people's lives. There is federal legislation to ban crisis pregnancy. Democrats want to force pro-life physicians and nurses to either do abortions or lose their license or face civil penalties. So, Dr. Marshall, you're pro-life. If you decided, no, the heavy hand of Washington, D.C. is going to come in and snatch your license away or subject you to civil penalties. That is concerning. Can anyone name a state in which there is a law saying that if the life of the mother is at risk, the woman does not have right to an abortion? You can't because there is no state. Every state allows an exception for the life of the mother. And there's this kind of, frankly, misinformation that is not the case. So I'm going to speak as a physician. There's a lot of common ground. Let's do something about maternal mortality. But let's don't hide our efforts in a cloud of misinformation, suggesting for a fact that aborting every baby is the way to protect mama's lives when we see here in Washington, D.C. with the most liberal law in abortion in the nation having the highest rate of maternal mortality. Nor let's suggest that a mama is going to have her life placed at risk because of these or because of an ectopic pregnancy she can't have her abortion addressed. And the richest was that transgender is somehow going to be affected. There's not a law out there related to abortion that also relates to transgender. So I usually ask questions, but here I just had to say, let's all think like doctors who really want to lower maternal mortality, but also calm everybody down with facts, not with misinformation. With that, I yield.
Senator Smith.